221 for 3. Ollie Pope on 103. And Harry Brook is on 8. England put into bat. Very murky conditions out there. Absolutely the right decision by Dananjaya de Silva to do that. But he didn't get much support from his bowlers. England lost Lawrence in the 10th over. A pull shot that he top-edged and was taken by Nissanka in the gully off Kumara for 5. Disappointing end that. Duckett and Pope took the score up to 140, so they added 95. Duckett, sort of an impish innings, is the typical way that he played. He played a couple of reverse scoops along the way, maybe 15, 16 runs he scored, I guess. Then on 86 he tried it again, didn't execute the shot well, and was caught by Chandimal, a little lobbed catch off Rathnayaka, 14 short of another 100. It again came from 79 balls. That was 140 for 2. Joe didn't look really much at home today, I didn't think. In fact, Rathnayaka bowled rather well at him. He faced 48 balls for his 13 before he pulled a catch down to long leg, where Fernando took it off again off Kumara, who's taken a couple of wickets. So 191 for 3, 221 for 3 then, and bad light saw them off the field again. Where should we start? I've got 3 lined up here. I've got Michael Vaughan, Russell Arnold and Alistair Cook. I shall start with you, Alistair, since you're sitting by yourself to my left. Two other different angles on that day, I would think. I mean, if you look at the 2 dressing rooms, one will be very happy with things, and the other, I suspect, won't be happy at all.
Well, I'd like to talk about Ollie Pope, and actually coming through a tough couple of games with the bat and a tough little period he's had to experience. Probably heightened the fact he was captain. I think if he'd have played like that in the first 2 games, there would never have been the talk about it. We just said, he's a little bit out of form, but because he's just been thrown in, as it happens as England captain, as Michael know, that everything you do is heightened and everything you do is.
There's so much more focus on the captain, isn't there? If you're just down in the ranks, but even as vice captain, you can sort of have a little struggle or two quietly.
Exactly.
But as soon as it's the captain and a stand-in captain as well,
and almost the narrative was how will the captain see affect his batting, almost before he even started, and then he had 4 lowish scores, and we kind of got to the point where we said today that it didn't matter how either him or Dan Lawrence, because the other guy is under the pump, scores runs. It's all about getting them. And to be fair to Ollie Pope, he did look calmer at the crease in his first 20 balls. Whether it's a conscious effort or he's been working at something behind the scenes, he did look like he was trying to keep his head up a little bit straighter. Ultimately, he punished a lot of bad bowling today, but it doesn't matter for him. He's looking at their first Test 100 as a captain. Very important and big day.
Yeah, Michael, you know what that intense focus is too, don't you? On a captain and a standard, and all the questions are asked.
Yeah, he played beautifully. I think from around the 3rd ball I saw, and Cookie's right to mention his head position. Whether it's here at the O, he's arrived at a venue that he adores. He scored so many runs here, so straight away he'd have felt more comfortable the last few days. But that head position, particularly on a pitch like this, was perfect because. He loves that channel when the ball bounces just slightly. He's got a tremendous cut shot, and they fed it. Let's be honest, they fed it all day. There's like, Ollie, we're going to get you back into form because we're going to bowl into channel and give you some nice, juicy cut shots. And every now and again, Ollie, we'll put one on your pads as well. They flick one on the onside. But you take away of how badly, and that has been a really poor bowling performance from Sri Lanka.
Yep.
All right, they haven't got the world-class bowling performers, but they've got decent bowlers. They should be able to bowl a lot better than we've seen today. You've got to get the job done. And Ollie arrived this week with a bit of pressure. And I was worrying for him because I like the way that he plays. I like him as a character. I think he's tremendous for the team. And I thought, if he doesn't get runs this week, there's Zach Crawley to come back in, Ben Stokes to come back in. There's a lot of talk of Jordan Cox. And you start thinking, there'll be players that are going to miss out. And by scoring runs here, that all goes away. He's got 100. Yep. He can go on the winter's tours to Pakistan, New Zealand with a little bit. He won't be the captain as well, and he can just get back into the ranks and hopefully play again like we've seen today. With there was one shot, there was about 66, and his head was so upright, and he flicked it through mid-wicket, straight mid-wicket for 4. And I thought, that's it. That's what I like to see. His head nice over that off stump. And last week, whether it was the slope. The slope at Lords can get you as a batter. Your head can fall over either side from facing at the pavilion and facing at the nursery stand end. But straight away today, I looked down and thought, he's at the Oval. His balance looks good. and he capitalised. You know, he hit some nice shots, but
Yep.
he also capitalised on some really poor bowling.
And just maybe for him, and the fact that he has been so much more heightened, his game, and everyone's talking about him and his batting, all the stats about his starts. Actually, sometimes that might bring a real focus to him. So actually, the real realisation, actually, Jesus, is that true that Phil Tufnell's a better starter than me? And
That's a bad one, isn't it?
but
It's a bad one, it really is.
But it is a bad one. But actually, sometimes you need that real element of
Yeah.
truth in your game. And but maybe because he was captain, that everyone started talking. And hopefully, he's gone down. He scored a runnable 100 today, so he hasn't gone back into his shell. But there was definitely, I felt when I watched his first 15, 20 balls, there was a real, there's not the determination, a real method of how he's trying to fight his technique, trying to manage his technique probably better than he did in the last two games. Whether that's just the way that the flow of the game, and sometimes you're in form and you're out of form a little bit. But he didn't play some big drives. He didn't have to play big drives, but he has been guilty of playing big shots straight.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Fundamentally, no one likes criticism. You know, we've all been in the dressing room and you get and we don't like it. But there comes a time, and I used to have it where I thought, I don't like that. But then there was things that were said, and I'd go, oh yeah, they're right, and I wouldn't admit to them. I'd never go to the journo or the expert and say, oh, you got it spot on. But in your mind, something just triggers you and go, yeah, and maybe, and it's only been his starts. You know, those first 20 balls have been frantic for quite a consistent time, and today he looked calmer. He looked a little bit more controlled, and he got a couple away, and that's what he's got to take. And if what he takes over the last few weeks is to be a little bit calmer at the start of the innings, it's going to serve him better against the better bowlers when you go to Pakistan and you go to New Zealand. You're up against Bumrah and Co. and Cummins later on next year. If he can find that calmness and that head position on a more consistent basis, he will be able to survive better for those 20 balls, which will give him a chance to go and get the scores like we've seen today.
Yeah, I'll bring Russell in a second, Russell, but it's a last thought about this. It has been quite a low-key summer. People looking for stuff to write about. It again might have sort of heightened the focus of people talking about Ollie Pope and his position and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what I did enjoy, and I love watching someone when they come out the other end of that.
Yes.
Because I know what they've been through, and I know you try and put a brave face on every interview as a captain. You know, when I wasn't scoring runs as a captain, or when you weren't scoring runs as a batsman, you try and put a brave face on. You try and bluff your way throughout in the field when you're there, but deep down, you know, geez, I really want to score. I've got to score runs. And actually, when someone does score runs, it's such, you know that you've gone to the well, not a great phrase, you know what I mean, gone and dug deep and come through the other end. So you know you can do it again. And for longevity, you need that ability to fight, because he's never plain sailing unless you're Joe Root maybe, but you know, most batsmen go through these peaks and troughs of form, and the slightly less good go through more than the better ones. And Ollie Pope will use this experience, what he's found the last 3 days, and getting 100 a lot in his career.
Right, Russell, how bad a day have Sri Lanka's bowlers had there on a scale of 1 to 10?
4 probably. It has been poor actually, because the conditions were such that all you needed to do was to be patient and bowled decent lines and lengths. And as Michael said, they kept feeding the batsmen on all sorts. I thought after putting them in, the Sri Lankan bowlers just felt, things are going to happen. It's that type of day. No, it doesn't happen. You still got to make things work for you. And to Joe Root, who they've struggled to right throughout the series, they bowled well. Attacking fields came in. There were 2 slips, a gully, a leg slip. And that reflected in the lines and lengths and the approach of the bowlers at that stage. Joe Root, who's batting in such good form, 13 or 48. That's the period where England struggled to score runs even with the others.
Did he bowl better at him, actually, funnily enough? Although he's been tormented.
That's what I'm saying. With the other batters, straight away there's a deep point, there's one slip, there's a mid-wicket, and just expecting them to come at you and get themselves out. So I think that thought process or approach, attacking approach, is what's crucial, and it immediately, subconsciously reflects in your execution.
You gave them 4. I think you're a bit generous there. I think you're generous, 4 out of 10. Can I persuade you a bit lower?
It's harder for me to go in. I can't go any lower.
Can't you? What, can you go lower?
It'll be
Yeah,
harsh.
you can.
I can.
I think if they'd have bowled like they did at Lords when they won the toss and bowled on a glorious day, they'd had so much more success. Russell said about they just expected it to happen and muddled thinking. The prime example of that was Dan Lawrence's first ball. So Dan's under huge pressure for a score to get himself in there. He went out to bat when the conditions, you couldn't see the buildings, that's how low the cloud was. He had an extra cover. Dan Lawrence cannot hit the ball through extra cover unless he's on 140. Everyone knows that. He loves it through the leg side. He had an extra cover, 2 slips. He must have just thought, what's going on? I mean, it didn't make a difference, but that just shows to me, actually, you win the toss and bowling condition there, you got a batsman under pressure, Dan Lawrence, who really struggles to hit the ball through extra cover. You're on extra cover. If that's not muddled thinking, then I don't know what is.
That's fair comment.
Very fair indeed. And it comes down to how you set yourself up, I guess, and it reflects in how the bowlers will execute, with the batters just trying different things. There was probably 1 ball on a length in an over, whereas 2 on the leg side, 1 way or way outside off stump, which just didn't build any pressure. And whatever England were looking for in terms of the conditions, they were at ease.
What are they going to be saying in that Sri Lankan dressing room, Michael?
Well, the problem they have is that obviously they're 2-0 down in the series, and they had a great chance today of doing something, and I just thought they lacked intensity. The first hour, you've won the toss, you bowl, and the conditions are perfect. And the ball didn't do as much as we thought.
That's true.
So give them a little bit, but there was no intensity. They weren't buzzing around. They bowled 5 overs in the first half an hour. There was no intensity in the field. There was no buzzing energy. There was no one flying around. I didn't see, fielders going and grabbing the bowlers' hats to give it to the umpire. It was all a bit lethargic. And that concerns me in the grand scheme of the whole of Test match cricket, that you've got a team there that's probably thinking, we just want to get on the plane home. And this should be a big contest. You're at the Oval, a big crowd. And all right, you're 2-0 down in the series, but there's so much more to play for when you're playing an England side in these conditions. I thought that was as poor a day of bowling that I've seen for a long, long time. I was trying to think about when I've seen it, and I'm sure there's been plenty, but just in the conditions and that low nature of the cloud with the lights on, I don't think I've seen a team bowl as badly as that for a long time.
I sensed it rather when Angelo Matthews came on. Hasn't bowled for years. And he started at 76 miles an hour and got slower. It was a very strange little spell, that of 3 overs. He barely hit 70 by the end, and that just looked a bit,
But just on Angelo Matthews, he's bowling 70 miles an hour. He's not going to go to 80, 82. Just tactically, you go, well, you've got to have the keeper stood up to the stumps.
Yeah.
You've got to get the batters back in the crease. Joe Root and Ollie Pope, they were almost batting on Angelo Matthews' toes. They were that far down the crease because there was no threat. How's he going to get you out? You're either going to play a really bad shot or he's going to trap you on the crease.
Yeah.
Well, he's not going to trap you on the crease when they're half a mile out the crease, batting because of the pace. Yeah. Just tactically, I think throughout the whole series, I've looked at Sri Lanka, and at times they've competed.
Yeah.
And at times they've fought. But there's been so many times where I've looked down tactically and gone, they're miles off. A long way short of being at this level tactically. And I think those kind of things, you don't always have the expertise in your team. You don't have the Muralitharans, you don't have your Chaminda Varsas, you don't have the Malingas. But tactically, they should be better than they are. And I've seen a team that's played so far in this series without the real kind of strength of tactics.
I totally agree with Michael. Watching them over the last few years, even in white ball cricket, they're good for 10 overs, not the 100 overs. You've got to be able to continue and see how the game ebbs and flows and make those changes. For more often than not, play those little periods expecting the opposition to roll over. Good teams won't. And that's the problem Sri Lanka are having. They got to poke themselves and keep going for longer periods.
Do you worry about... Well, not worry, that's the wrong way of saying it, but I mean, Dan Lawrence has now missed out. I mean, he got 230s in the first game. For Lawrence, this seems to me to be about keeping that spare batsman's slot, isn't it, and getting on the tours and so on. I mean, he's missed out again, and that wasn't a great shot today, let's be honest. No,
it wasn't, and it was a shot of a man who was almost too desperate, which you can get to. And also, I think I was on radio or the TV, but when you got Ben Duckett whacking it at the other end, and he was running down, he was free, he was playing exactly how he wanted to play. And Dan would love to do that. That's how he plays at his absolute best. But he knows, England could only bat once in this game.
Yeah.
So you saw how he bat. He was trying to be like the traditional opener, 5 or 20 balls. And I said, he's got to be careful here. He doesn't, get distracted by Ben Duckett. And actually, the shot he played was neither an attacking shot, a defensive shot. It just showed someone who was battling demons. And when you are indecisive and when you're unclear exactly how you are to play, the fact that he hasn't opened much in 4-day cricket or 5-day cricket or first-class cricket was shown up exactly then. And he was desperate to play. Obviously, the interviews at the beginning, just get out there, and a score could have changed the thing, and he hasn't been good enough to find a score, unfortunately.
A lot of competition around, isn't there, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I feel for him because he's been given this opportunity, and he's not an opener. But what it's proven to me is that Ben Duckett is always an aggressor, but he's opened all his life, so he's always walked out there first and faced the new ball. He knows how to do it. It's shown me over the last 2 games and 1 innings for Dan Lawrence is that opening the batting is a specialist skill. There's so many that have had a go at it, but the ones that survived the longest, they've done it since they were so high. They just know how to open the batting. It's such a hard skill to master. I feel for him because there are a lot of people that are coming through. Jordan Cox, I've mentioned just a short while ago. He I think will be on the tour.
Often you're better off not playing,
and by doing what, and then it's his code, like the mode of dismissals in this series. You kind of watched Dan and thought, oh no, it's not been great for him. He hasn't played great, but don't rule out him being a spare batter because England pretty much are quite loyal with players, particularly good people. And I think he's a good guy. He's a good guy in the dressing room, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. I was desperate for him to get a score today. I just wanted him to go and just play the Dan Lawrence way. He's on his ground, obviously plays for Surrey now, and you're thinking if he can get to 20, he probably could go. But it's getting to 20, and it's so difficult at this level when you're under pressure and you haven't got the mountain of runs behind you, to kind of draw back on. He'll hope to have a second innings, and I still think if he gets a second innings and gets a half decent score, I still think he'll have to sit by the phone and hope that phone rings for a winter tour spot.
Just watching, I can see Ben Duckett making his way down the steps, along with Danny Rubin, who's the media manager with the team, of course. So, Henry.
Thank you very much, Aggers. Yeah, Ben Duckett alongside me. Floodlights beaming down, bit of a gloomy day. What are your reflections at the end of all that?
Yeah, I think an incredible day. I think conditions were with them all day, and the pace that we scored at, and from losing the toss and getting stuck in and then being whatever we're on now, 3 down, we'd have definitely taken it.
As an opener, when you see the coin go up and you're going to be batting under these sort of skies, what's your feeling?
Yeah, I had a feeling today. I always kind of rock up on day one and expect to bat just because, I'm opening, I know I'm first out there. And, sometimes on pitches like that, they can go searching and you can actually get off to a flyer. So, that actually wasn't the case today. I didn't quite get off to the flying start, but yeah, I think playing most of my cricket now at Trent Bridge, where you do get stuck in on green tops, you kind of get used to it.
Any frustration at falling short of a milestone, or do you see that as job done at the top of the order?
No, I mean, yeah, big time. I'm very, I always want to score hundreds and match-winning knocks, but, I wasn't playing today for 100, which I'm happy with. And, the reason why I went from 50 to 80 odd so quick was because of that shot. I've kind of thought about it for a while now, and with the coaching staff been thinking about playing it, and maybe one of those where it was kind of hard to not play it. It felt like I could do it every ball, and they were bowling a good length, and fine leg was so wide. So I'd just go and hit it over the top next time.
Do we sometimes, watching on need to actually change our parameters a bit? And it looks like an unusual shot because we're just not used to seeing it, but actually it is a high percentage scoring shot for you. Yeah,
that's completely up to you guys. The reason why I've been thinking about playing it is because, especially in Test cricket, bowlers look to kind of bowl the same length every ball. The ball I got out to was actually the perfect ball for me to play that shot. It's one of those. It's about using it at the right time, I guess. And obviously downwind when I was playing it earlier, and he was bowling a really nice heavy length. Felt like the only way I was going to get out was kind of the way that I did. And it's one of those. It's probably like the kind of era we're in where reverse sweeps is a go-to shot now against spin. I know you don't see many opening batsmen play the scoop shot, but it's a shot that I like to think I play well. Next time hit it for 4.
A word on Ollie Pope. That innings would have meant a lot to him today.
Yeah, I think you could see the emotions. There's obviously been a little bit of noise, of him taking over captaincy, and I think if a number 3 doesn't score runs in 2 games, there shouldn't really be any criticism in the slightest. I think he's got a couple of 50s and 200s this summer, so it's character to him. We all knew that his ability and his skill, and I'm so happy for him.
Dan Lawrence has had a tough time at the top of the order. You know the challenges of opening. What have you said to him?
Oh, not a lot today, I think sometimes, less is better. When you bat in the middle order most of your career and then come in at the top of the order, it is a completely different game. And, on another summer, I think Loza, he's got one more knock and he could go and get 100 and win us a game. So, that would be my only thing I'd say to him is, stick to your game and hopefully it will come good second innings.
Just lastly, we've been debating all day up in the commentary box how we can get more cricket on days like today. It is frustrating, particularly for the supporters in. If there was a pink ball introduced when it got a little bit dark, how would you feel as a batter?
It depends how new that pink ball was, I guess. Yeah, it's frustrating. I actually think we've probably got more cricket than we probably should have done today. I think the umpires did keep us out there for a while. And there were certain periods where it was really dark. It's just sometimes the English weather. I'm not sure how I'd be too happy on a different ball coming out if it was dark and then 10 minutes later it gets light and you go back to a red ball. So, unfortunately, there's not much we can do.
Ben, well played today. Many thanks. Cheers.
Ben Duckett, 86. This is looking at his stats. 950s, 300s. Should be 5, really. Harry Brook, 950s, 500s. Yeah, I mean, Test batsmen are defined by the centuries, aren't they? That's 2 obvious ones he's missed out on, really. I mean, including obviously the one against Australia last year at Lords.
Yeah, I mean, you'd want to sit next to Ben Duckett. He's positive about everything, isn't he? Everything's possible, which is great. I mean, it's a great mentality. I actually like the shot he's trying to play. I think with the field, and he mentioned finally quite wide, he does play that flick over the keeper's head quite nicely. So I'd be looking more at the execution of how he got out. But, you are judged on centuries. What I will say to him, that at the minute he'll be delighted he's got an 80-odd. Then maybe in a year's time, when you're looking, and I call it put some money in the bank. These are the kind of attacks in the conditions that I've seen today where the ball hasn't done a great deal, where I'd go put some in the bank.
Yeah.
Get a big score in the bank, because when Bumrah comes at you, Cummins comes at you, Stark comes at you, Hazelwood comes at you, Shami comes at you, Siraj comes at you, there is a chance they might get you out for a few low scores, and you need a bit in the bank, a few kind of nice contributions before you get to them.
Yep. And
you've just got a little bit of store, you've got something in there. He'll just carry on playing that way, but I just want him to realise that, when he finishes his career, he'll probably look about. I remember getting out in the 190s twice, and I look back and I go, why didn't I just get a double? Why didn't he go and get 200? And I just hope he's having the time of his life. He plays this intensity and this aggressive nature, which is fantastic to watch. It's a bit reckless at times, and we know he's going to play those big drives, and you kind of watch go, come on, just leave a few, but he doesn't. He's just going to carry on that way. But, for England to be high class and for England to beat the best teams in the world, if you get to 80-odd, you've got to get a big one.
Yeah. We talked about Sri Lanka's bowling. It just feels that England's bowlers are waiting for their chance, isn't it? I mean, I think they would have been pretty difficult today.
Well, I mean, you've been a bowler, I guess you'd have been sat on that balcony all day long thinking,
yes,
go on, get 400, get 450, and then we'll have a go tomorrow afternoon. I believe the clouds are going to be around for a few days. I think this pitch will probably get a bit quicker, and it'll be a little bit better for bowling. So the Sri Lankans already in the series have struggled, particularly that top order. I can't imagine it's going to get any easier for them on this kind of pitch against Wokes & Co. with a juke ball with a little bit of movement.